this one area was the one thing that the vast majority of those that registered said was of great interest to them, which is about how do we create good digital content. And for that reason, I'm really pleased that we have some really great teachers from around the world, actually, who are joining us. So please welcome Johan from Sweden, Claudio from the USA, and Grace Amoka from Nigeria. Three very different places in the world. Hi, how are you guys?
I'm fine.
Very well,
Thank you very much.
Well, wonderful. Well, welcome to this. And Claudio, you look as if it's quite early where you are, but you look wrapped up, which is fantastic. But I want to make sure that we actually see the videos that you have produced, and then and Saba will lead a conversation. So I'm going to start with Johan, and then we're going to come to Claudio and Grace's video. So Johan, this is your moment of fame.
Hi, my name is Johan Skoghall, and I'm a high school teacher at a school called LBS in Sweden, in the town of Jönköping. And we're specialized in media education, and I teach subjects as photography and filmmaking. And now I would like to tell you why film is a great digital content for your teaching. But first, a short background. Image, moving or still, is a big part of our communications today. For me, it's just another language, and we have to learn to write it and read it. Therefore, film is a great tool for you to use. You will always be there, you have a clear message, and you'll teach another language. Okay, this is what you do. Skip the long lectures. Break it down. Record yourself. Make short films where you give instructions, hands out assignments, and teach. Make it simple, but with a few easy tricks, you will get a good result. Use your mobile phone and place it somewhere firmly so you get a steady picture. Frame yourself. Use a close-up or a medium shot. You'll get closer to the microphone and your voice will be recorded better. And speaking of sound, make sure that you are in a quiet environment, no disturbing sounds. And place yourself in front of the light. The light should be behind the camera. It'll make you look better. It will make it look better. Before you push record, plan what you're going to say. Write a script so your message is clear and easy to understand. And make short films, not longer than 2 to 4 minutes. And fill them with cutaways. Show your audience what you talk about. And don't be afraid of editing your films. There is a lot of free and easy tools available for your mobile phone. Finally, publish your films so your pupils easily get access to them. Use the common video service on the web. Remember, this tool is not only for you. You're not the movie star. The pupils are the ones who's going to succeed, so help them do it. Let them tell you what they've learned by using film as a tool. By doing so, they learn to see, read, and write this language. You're just a mentor. They are the stars. That's a wrap.
It's great to see. They are the stars. And now we watch Claudio and Grace.
Hello, my name is Claudio Zavala Jr., and I'm a digital designer in Burleson ISD in Burleson, Texas. And I'm excited to share with you how to make good digital content. And I want to start this off by talking about storytelling, because that is the crux of digital content, how I create content, how I share with teachers on how to create content, how I share with students on how to create content. And it all starts with storytelling. We all started with print. I would say many of us started with print. We still have print today, newspaper and books and magazines. And that's the way we share stories. We tell stories. We talk with each other. We use media, whether it's television or the internet. All those things are done as mediums to storytelling. And so when you are creating digital content, when your students are creating digital content, you want to think of that when you are designing. So here are some tips that if you would take with you in regards to storytelling and creating digital content. And that is to design with intention. You want to have the end in mind. An example, here in the United States, we may be building houses and we have a plan. We have the end in mind. How are the individuals in the house going to live? Well, when you're designing content, you want to think about the end in mind. So all the things that make up that content, those things that make up content are color because they give out emotion. Some colors may be happier, some may be more melancholy. So think about using color with intent. White space, here's an example. In this case, we're using black space to give that image. We're going to draw the audience eye to that area. And also something else I want to, a tip in regards to creating digital content is to keep it simple. You don't want to put too much on it where the audience may not be attracted to it. So you want to keep it very simple. And ultimately, you want to have fun when you're creating. You want to get your hands dirty. You want to get your hands full of color, full of mud whenever you are creating digital content. Maybe digital mud. You want to get your hands dirty when you're creating. And so I have several examples of ideas on taking all of this and how I make this content and how I do that. And that's to create with purpose, with that intent that I talked about at the beginning, the design. Well, here when I take pictures, I always have that thought in mind. When I take a picture, I want to capture it with the intent of how my audience is going to view it. In this case, the design was on the shirt. In another example, I have a design where I took the picture and the text was underneath, but all that space, I purposely took the shot that way. And ultimately, this last example right here was myself pointing down because I wanted to draw the audience attention to that space below my beard here. And then I can add a message to share. And ultimately, all of this, the best way that you can tell the story is by you telling that story, and the best person to do that is you. So I hope you've enjoyed these tips to create great digital content.
Hello, my name is Grace Amoka, a teacher in Local Government Education Authority Primary School, Komimashi, Kaduna, Nigeria, where 90% of children are from low-income families. I'll be sharing top tips on how to create good digital content for communities like ours. The pandemic hit and families in our communities did not have access to computers, and the internet kept dropping when they tried to access online classes with mobile phones. Students struggled to bridge the digital divide. Like the two characters in the word crisis in Chinese are transliterated as danger and opportunity, there was an opportunity to put to use audio content which required lower bandwidth than video, simpler and cheaper to produce and use, and more accessible by children in our community.
To produce great audio content, 3 steps are important. First, the planning, then the production, and the publishing. For the planning stage, the first thing you need to do is decide what lesson you want to teach or story you want to tell. Then you clearly identify the objectives you want to achieve from that lesson. You write out a script to help guide the production of the audio content. For the production phase,
After deciding the fable to read and writing the script for the audio production, I go to Audacity, which is a free and open source digital audio editor, very simple and straightforward to use. I click on the red icon here to record. Ali and the Magic Carpet. One very hot day, Ali finds a carpet in his uncle's shop. What's this? Suddenly, the carpet jumps. It moves and flies up into the air. Hey, what's happening? A loud booming voice comes from the carpet.
Welcome, O Master. I am a magic carpet. First, they fly high up into the sky, and then they land in a jungle. It is hot and wet, and it's raining. It's raining! Yuck! By the time I finish, I stop the recording and then play to see if it is what I want. Ali and the Magic Carpet. One very hot day. I can also add different types of effects. I can add background sounds to the story as well. When I finish and I'm satisfied with what I have, I come to File and then export as MP3. I named this Ali and the Magic Carpet. By the time I come to my Audacity folder here, I have my recording, which I can then send to students in my class.
I then send the audio content to the students via WhatsApp Messenger. The students learn to speak more fluently by sending their repeated audio files. They can also draw, write, and predict what happens in a sequel to the story.
I highly recommend you try out audio content for educational purposes. To do this, focus on enunciation, differentiating characters when telling stories, and then just keep practicing. You'll get better with every trial. The benefits of audio content are it increases the vocabulary and speaking skills of the students since they are forced to rely on listening only. It also helps maintain the interest of the learners. It is easier to make an audio clip than a video, and then it requires less bandwidth than video content. I look forward to see the amazing productions of audio content for educational purposes. Thank you.
Wow, that was incredible. And I love also what really stood out to me was how each of you sort of shared a very different aspect of how we can tell stories. So it's one of the beautiful things about today, right? Like we're not limited to just one medium. It's how do you feel comfortable sharing, and then maybe you'll grow in other areas too. But you know, I actually went from my bookshelf while you were presenting, and I actually grabbed this book called Life is in the Transitions. It was one of my favorite books during 2020 because it's all about how story helps us navigate change, and how we have to keep rewriting that story as, you know, we keep having different changes. So I'm curious to hear from the three of you. Claudio, perhaps we can start with you, Grace, and then Johan, and maybe just share with the audience how they can use story, because you did such a great job sharing the tools, right? So we've got all these different ways now we can think about telling stories. How might we help students use story to make sense of what they've been going through?
Well, I think, first of all, that the perspective from, I think that's the important piece. You know, we all have different backgrounds and different experiences, and I think that's the powerful part of this, of telling a story. And when I present to educators or students, I say, you know, like I said in the video, the best person to share your story is you, and you need to share it before someone else says it for you. And so I think that right there in itself, hoping that sharing that with the student, saying, you know, you have the voice, you know, to share your story. I can't tell it for you. I can help you. I can give you tools like we've been talking about, the different tools to help you piece that story together, whether it's a video, an audio piece, maybe a song, maybe a dance you create, an art piece you put together, a graphic representation, but any of those ways. But I think the important part is, like, you share your story. You're the best one to do that.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of power in that, right? Like both that empathy component about being able to like listen and learn from other people's stories, but also that idea that like you have a voice, you can tell the story. You don't have to be, you know, sort of like overtaken by the narrative around you. So I love that. Thank you. Grace, how about you? How might teachers be able to help students make sense of everything that they've experienced through story, you know, and then share in that, like those audio files, the way you shared with us?
So the first thing I would say is teachers themselves need to understand that the stories that we read today were written by other people based on their own experiences or experiences they had heard about. So whatever I'm going through at this point is an opportunity for me to tell my story. Like Claudio said, you know, there's going to be generations coming after me that would want to understand how I was able to navigate the pandemic, for example. So it gives them a wider picture, a better perspective to see the current situations they're going through. So it's not just that I'm going through this and I'm just trying to get out of this situation, but how can I navigate this in such a way that it will make for a great story when someone else reads about it in years to come? So I think that teachers need to embrace this reality first for them to be able to preach it to the students, because you cannot give what you do not have, basically. Thank you.
Oh, I love that idea of like how do teachers use story as well to first make sense of things so that they can be inspired by what kids are able to do. I also really love that you highlight this idea of experiences. I think at a time where we're seeing so many challenges around racial equity around the world, this is a great opportunity for people to use their voices and have these mediums to share what they're most passionate about. And you make me wonder, 20, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, as people look back and like search like health pandemic in 2020, what kinds of videos and stories are they going to see? So thank you. Johan, would love to hear from you in your wonderful studio there.
Thank you very much. Well, I think we have to remember that quite fast, many people have gained access to a camera and the possibility to express themselves. And most of our communications today is done with picture, moving or still. So for me, I also value this as another language that we have to learn. And I think that's a key thing to also tell our students and pupils that this is a language that you have to learn. You need to interpret and express and create with it. So that's my view on it.
I love that. This is a new language that we must learn. Thank you so much, all of you. These were absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Andy, for the wonderful graphics you've been sharing throughout our time together. And, I think just looking at that graphic, just visually, we can see the diversity that we have today in mediums through which to tell our stories. And so thank you to the panel for inspiring us all.
Well, thank you all for taking part. And I'm really grateful to you, Johan, Claudio, and Grace, from 3 very different parts of the world who are coming to tell the story. So, Claudio, you talk about storytelling. Johan, you talk about filmmaking. Grace, you talk about so many parts of the world have a very similar context to where you are in the northern part of Nigeria. And, using audio and WhatsApp and all these media has been actually the story that's come through the pandemic. And how you and, for example, how Panchali have done it in India, I think has just been mind-blowing. So thank you so much, all of you, for doing this. Before we go, I wanted to share the results of the live poll that we're doing, because I think it's important. And so what we have over here is we asked a question, how do you describe the role that technology, how would you describe the role that technology has had in your physical, mental, and emotional well-being since the pandemic started? And look at this, overwhelming number of you have said technology has actually helped my well-being to improve. Now, that is not something I expected, if I'm being honest. And so that, I think, we have Andreas Schleicher, who's going to join us shortly from the OECD. It'll be interesting to get his perspective on this. But thank you so much for sharing, everyone. And I want to say once again, thank you to our panel, Johan from Sweden, Claudio from the US, and Grace from Nigeria. Thank you so much for your partnership in this.